I don't know if I would have ever been able to explain or predict what my thoughts are going to be on this Twister 4K release. I've got a lot to say, so let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, you have entered the suck zone, baby. That is right. We are here to review and talk about Twister on 4K UHD. Look, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. This is one of my most anticipated 4Ks of all time. Like, ever since I got into collecting for 4K, I've been wanting Twister. I've got a lot of thoughts. I've got so many thoughts on this 4K. Maybe the most thoughts that I've ever had on any 4K restoration ever. Like, forget about the James Cameron movies that came out. I'm really interested in what people are going to think about this. We'll get into it when I talk about the 4K, but there's a lot. And I feel like maybe it's because I just had the most perspective with this movie in particular, because I got the VHS of Twister. I've still got it right here. I got this when it came out. I was obsessed with this movie. I saw it in the theaters, obsessed with this film. And this VHS actually came out on October the 1st, 1996. My birthday is October the 2nd. And I remember asking for this for my birthday, and I got it, and then I just wore this VHS tape out. So I've been watching this movie since the beginning of home video, and now I have it on 4K. So there are things about this 4K that I notice that I can pick up on because I've seen this movie so many times. But we'll get into it, guys. There is a lot. I have very conflicting thoughts. This is going to be a very interesting review for sure. This is a movie directed by Jan de Bont. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but he directed one of my other all-time favorite movies, and that is Speed. I love Speed. It's probably my favorite action film. And when this movie came out, it says at the top of this VHS and also the poster, directed by the same guy as Speed, and also from the producers of Jurassic Park. So like right away, I was just drawn to this movie. But when I was a kid, like I grew up in Kentucky. We didn't have a ton of tornadoes like all the time, like Oklahoma or Kansas, but we had our fair share. I was deathly afraid of tornadoes. I lived in a trailer till I was like 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old, maybe like right before this movie came out. So I was so afraid. Like every time the tornado watches came around, like the tornado warnings, like I was scared to death because I knew my ass was getting hauled away in that trailer if it came over. So I was so scared. We didn't have a basement. We didn't have nowhere, no cellar, no storm cellar, nothing. So I was so afraid of tornadoes. Then Twister came out, and I was so like drawn to movies that I knew would scare me when I was a kid. So I instantly was drawn to this movie and wanted to watch it. Went to the theaters to watch it. And it cured my fear. Like it honestly cured my fear. Bill Paxton was honestly like, it wasn't Batman, it wasn't Spider-Man, it wasn't Luke Skywalker. Like Bill Paxton, once I saw Twister, was the hero of my childhood. Bill Paxton as Bill in this film, he was my hero. Like I wanted to be Bill Paxton for the longest time. I wanted to be a storm chaser. I still don't know why I never was. I really don't. But like every time there was a tornado warning, I would go outside. I would look at the sky. Like they had to yell to get me back in the house. Like I wanted to be out there. I wanted to see the tornado. So it really cured my fear for tornadoes. So Twister, in a way, kind of changed my life at a very young age. The characters in this movie I love so much. I love their chemistry together, and it's because they do such a good job of setting up the world and all these characters. And, you know, you can tell they all have a past, they all care about each other, and they're all coming back together again. And I love all the characters, even though some of the characters are kind of throwaway. They don't really get their chance to shine. But I still love all the characters. I love being in this world. I love hanging out with them. I love chasing the storms. Obviously, we have two characters in this movie that are no longer with us. We don't have Philip Seymour Hoffman anymore, and we also don't have Bill Paxton. So it's sad when I watch this film because I think about those two and how they're not with us anymore. But also, I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the adventure. And this is just such a great film. It has everything, guys. It has everything. It has romance between Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, who have great chemistry in this film. It's got stunning action set piece moments. It's got great special effects. It's got, there's horror. I mean, I would say that this movie in parts is kind of a horror film. I would honestly describe it as that, like, because the way they portray the Twister in some of the sequences and scenes is horrific, and it's almost like they're trying to make him and turn him into a monster, the Twister, into an actual monster. Like, I would say the scene where it keeps popping up and down, in and out of the sky, like, that's a horrific scene in the film. And also the drive-in sequence where it's just like kind of growling behind the screen as it comes through and rips the screen away as it's playing The Shining. That's a horrific sequence as well. So there's so many great elements. Comedy, like, there's such great comedy in the movie as well. Philip Seymour Hoffman in this film, but just the group dynamic itself is very comedic. I love when they say food, and they all go to Meg's house and eat. And there's so much great, like, comedic moments while they're all eating around the dinner table. So I love everything about this movie. I've seen this film probably 50 or 60 times. Like I said, when I got this VHS tape, like, I watched it over and over and over again. But look, guys, before I get into talking about this 4K, there's a lot to discuss here. I do need to note that this is going to be available on July the 9th from Warner Brothers. I'm very thankful to be able to have an early review copy to get my thoughts out on this before it actually releases. The 4K with the slipcover is $24.96. Yes, it actually has a slipcover right here, as you can see. And there's also a steelbook version as well for $29.96. Both are available on Amazon and groove.com. I will be linking the Amazon links down below. If you want to use those links, I would definitely appreciate it because they do help support the channel. But all right, guys, let's just get into talking about this 4K. I've got a lot to say about this 4K. I've got notes over here. I don't want to forget anything. There's some stuff I want to reference specifically, so I did make notes for myself, whereas I don't always do notes when I'm doing reviews. But this is a native 4K. It's got HDR. It does not have Dolby Vision, so that might be a little disappointing to some people. My thoughts are, I don't think it takes away too much from the overall presentation, so I'm fine with it. But again, some people may be a little bit disappointed with that. I will say overall, guys, the picture here is gorgeous. It's beautiful. There are moments, okay, moments during this 4K that I watched it. I was sitting there watching it. I almost cried. Like, I almost cried because I'm seeing this movie that I've watched like 50, 60 times. It's never looked like this before. Like, there's so many differences, but there's so many differences that I think are positive differences that really enhance the overall experience of this movie. So I think that overall, it might be my favorite 4K of the year just because I love the movie so much and I've finally seen it how it was supposed to be seen, because Jan de Bont did a special feature here, which we'll talk about a little bit later, where he kind of goes into the changes, his thought process on what he did and why he made some of the changes that he made. And that honestly helped me work through some of my conflicting thoughts on the actual restoration. So I don't know, guys. I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, there are parts of this that I just think are stunning. Like, we are seeing these tornadoes like we've never seen them before. Like, I've watched this movie on VHS so many times. I've never seen these tornadoes like fully realized like this. They look so real. Like, they have so much richness to them, so much depth to them. They're so weighty. They just feel like actual tornadoes that are in front of you, that you are witnessing like firsthand. You just feel like you are there in the storm with the storm chasers. And it is so magnificent the way that this looks. But like, just going into the small stuff, like I said, I've got notes. Bill's red truck, like when he first pulls in to meet Helen Hunt, it is so vibrant and so rich. Like, the red just does not look like that on the Blu-ray. Like, we just watched a Blu-ray like a week and a half ago. It does not look like that on the Blu-ray. I even watched it again after the 4K, just certain scenes and specific parts. It does not look like that on the Blu-ray. Like, it's much more toned down, much more muted. The same for the yellow truck. Like, this stuff just looks fantastic. And obviously this movie was shot on film, so you have that richness and color that HDR is bringing out. There's so much depth. It just looks fantastic. Let's talk about, because I've got this next, let's talk about the going green scene. And this is going to be the big thing that I have to say and talk about. This is the thing that I am the most conflicted about when I'm thinking about this 4K. So when Bill's standing outside of the diner and Helen Hunt's on the inside with Carrie Elwes and some of the other characters, but he's out there, he's picking up dirt, because he has this sixth sense. He can sense the tornadoes, what they are, what they're going to do, where they're going to go. like he just has a sixth sense. It's kind of silly when you really think about it, but it's cool in when you're actually watching the movie itself. But he's picking up the dirt. He's looking out into the sky, and it's going green. That's a big thing. They make a point of that in the film, that when the sky starts to go a little greenish, that's when the tornadoes are coming. That's when you know that they are imminent, that they are coming, that they're going to happen, very soon. So Bill's looking out, and when I'm watching this on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and he says it's going green, and he's got Philip Seymour Hoffman standing next to him, the sky gets a little tinted green, just a little tinted green, just enough to notice and know what he's talking about. Okay, it's going green, Bill. We get it. I can see that, okay? In this 4K, and Jan de Bont said this is one of the big changes he wanted to make because they could never figure out how to make it truly go green. In this 4K, it goes green. Like, it goes really green. The green is so vibrant, so rich, and just overtakes the entirety of that scene in that moment. And that picture and that cinematography, like, it looks like it's just bathed in green. Like, that's the entire, like a green filter, bright green filter went over the picture. It gets so green. And I'm watching this on an OLED 65 inch. And he even says, when he's talking about Jan de Bont in the special feature, this is for the people that had the OLED. Like, those are the ones that are going to see this like it's never been seen before. Now imagine if you have a regular 4K TV, a QLED, whatever, you're probably going to see it get a lot greener as well. But I feel like on the OLED, like, it is like, it's almost blinding how green it gets. Like, my eyes have to adjust how green it gets in that moment. So I'm watching this, I'm like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like this change. And when they go into the first tornado, it doesn't stop because it's still kind of green when they go into the first tornado as well. Now that's pretty much the only part of the movie that's like that. As we go on with the rest of the film, you don't really ever see the green that strong ever again. Like, even with the final tornado, you don't see it that green. But in that moment when he looks out and he says it's going green, and then Dusty's like, greenage, hell yeah, or something, whatever he says, like, it's green. It is very green. I'm going to be showing you all pictures of it, but I didn't know how to feel about that. I really don't, because I'm sitting here on one hand, I'm like, okay, that's the way the director wants it. But on the other hand, this is not the way I'm used to watching Twister. It does not get that green. This is an entirely different movie to me. And I'm so nostalgic and so precious about the movie that I just felt weird inside watching it look different. But I accept it. That's the way the director wanted it, and I'm fine with it because it's not like the entire movie's like that. It's literally just like a 5-minute sequence, and then a little bit when they first encounter the first tornado. So I'm fine with it now, guys, but it does cause you to take pause and be like, whoa, what are they doing with this 4K? This is not my Twister. It makes you feel that way when you first see it. Now, getting into the rest of the stuff, guys, when the storms start coming in, it was never like this before. It is dark. It gets really dark. This is a very dark 4K. When those storms roll in, it's like real life. Like, have you ever been outside and it's sunny and you see that storm cloud coming in, and then it gets closer and closer and closer, and it almost turns the daytime into night? That's what it's like when you're watching this 4K, when you're watching those storms come in. It's bright and it's daytime, and then all of a sudden the clouds roll in and it's dark, and it's really dark. Now the colors look really great. Everything looks great. There's such great detail and clarity and depth to the picture. Like, all the details are there. It's dark, but all the details are there. You can see everything, and it looks excellent. Absolutely excellent. Like, the picture quality, like what it looks like, is excellent. Like, it's just one of the best 4Ks I've ever seen. But it is dark when those storms come in. And it wasn't that dark when you watch it on the Blu-ray, on the DVD, on the VHS. Like, it was still kind of light. But I kind of like that because it really adds to the immersion of the experience of watching Twister, because you feel like you are entering those storms with the characters. So I'm kind of a fan of that. It is a change. It feels very different, because I remember even when I was a kid, I thought about this. I'm like, well, it's pretty light. Like, it's pretty light outside during the first tornado sequence. It's very light outside when the F5 comes at the end. It almost feels like bright daylight with the F5. It doesn't feel like that in this version of Twister. When you get that F5 sequence at the end, it feels like you're in a storm. It is dark. The clouds are there. The F5 is dark. It's looming on the horizon. It's coming at them. Things are dark. It feels like you're in a real, actual storm. Whereas when you watched it on VHS or DVD or Blu-ray, it feels like the daylights with a big F5 tornado. So it does add to the overall experience, I think. It makes it better. It makes it more like what it should have been all along. The actual tornadoes and some of the action set pieces just freaking look fantastic, epic. The effects, like I said, totally hold up, and this 4K just brings it out even more and makes it look even better than it ever has before. Like there's some 4Ks that make special effects from like the 80s and 90s look worse. This is not one of those situations. This makes it look better and highlights for me that these effects are some of the greatest special effects of all time. It's up there with the first Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. Like some of the greatest special effects ever put to screen are Twister, and I think the 4K really highlights that. Let's talk about the change that everybody's going to love. Nobody's going to be conflicted about. This has Dolby Atmos, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I've got the full Dolby Atmos setup because I do not. But I do have a soundbar that simulates that Dolby Atmos and a subwoofer, and guys, when I tell you this is one of the best sound experiences that I've ever had, I am not BSing you. Like I said, I don't have the Dolby Atmos setup, but the last time I remember having sound this good was Top Gun Maverick, but I think this beats it. Like for me, I'm sitting there, guys. I got this thing cranked all the way up. My family thinks there's an actual tornado and a storm coming. That's how loud it was. Like no joke. They were ready to come down the basement with me and hide out. That's how good the sound was. When that first tornado comes at the very beginning of the film, like when Helen Hunt's a little girl, it's amazing. Like the sound is amazing. I knew this is going to be something special, but the tornadoes themselves, guys, they're monsters in this movie. They are creatures in this film. They're Godzillas in this movie. They roar. They roar loud in this movie. But you hear the winds, you hear the thunder, you hear the rain. All of it is so thunderous and monumental and grand. And that wind swirling and the growling of the tornadoes, like, it is such an experience, guys. Like you feel like you are in it with everyone. Like it is so amazing what they did with the sound here. Like I don't even have the full setup. Like I said, I don't even have the full setup, but my subwoofer is working hard. It's reverberating the sounds off the walls. Like I feel it in my chest watching it. And if you've got that full Atmos setup, like that is worth the price of admission alone. It is going to be absolute reference sound for your sound system. This is going to be something that you want to bring your friends over and test out and show them. But look, guys, let's get into the actual packaging. I'm taking way too long for this review. You got the front of the slipcover. Like I said, it does have a slip. You got the back, some images from the film. Take it out of the slipcover. You got the case, front, back. You open it up. You just have a 4K here. You do not have a Blu-ray, which is always disappointing, but that is Warner Brothers for you at this point. But you do have a digital code here. Now, getting into the special features, you do have a brand new special feature, like I said, with the director Jan de Bont, and it is a really good feature. It's 15 minutes long, and he kind of talks about the legacy of Twister, and he talks about some of his changes that he made with the 4K restoration. You can tell this movie is still extremely special to him, and I think that's super cool. He's like 80 years old now, so the fact that he would come back and talk about this film at his age is super awesome. Now, what I will say is there is one special feature from the Blu-ray, because I just watched it, that they cut. It's some kind of a documentary on tornadoes that was on the History Channel, I think. That was on the Blu-ray. It is not on this 4K, but everything else that was on the Blu-ray is on this 4K. So that is the only thing that they cut. They have Chasing the Storm, Twister Revisited, Anatomy of a Twister, and HBO First Look, The Making of Twister. So the only thing they don't have is that History Channel documentary, which I watched a little bit of that. I think it was just a documentary on tornadoes. I don't think it was actually Twister specific. So I think that's okay that they cut that. I don't think that's a huge deal. But if you have your Twister Blu-ray, it's worth noting because you may want to keep that in your collection. And also the Van Halen music video is on here, and it's also on the Blu-ray, so that's also cool. But look, guys, overall, I think this is a must own. It is a must own for your collection. It is probably my favorite 4K of 2024 so far. I was conflicted on things. Just because I wasn't what I was used to, but I think the changes overall are good, and I am very impressed and very happy with this 4K. And God bless Jan de Bont for putting this amount of effort into coming back and giving us this definitive vision for this film, for his film, one of the greatest, I'll just go ahead and say it, the greatest disaster film of all time. But thank you all so much for watching my review. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. Like I said, I will be linking this 4K down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.